There is absolutely no way that I can focus on this film, do a deep dive and critical analysis of it without giving spoilers. So if you have not seen the film and do not want to know several details about its plot, I would highly recommend you watch the movie and then come to this video, because I will barely scratch the surface if I do not flesh out several of its details and why exactly it has generated such passionate and dramatic responses across the internet. There are those who absolutely are dragging the film for the leap of faith it tries to take in creating parallels of a troubled marriage and the atrocities of war, and while there are some who, despite the problematic portrayal, are looking at glimpses of a silver lining like the earnestness of the performances that made it a decent watch for them. I wanted to, through this video, focus on several facets of the film so that you guys have not only my perspective, but we can have a detailed discussion about the film and what possibly went wrong with the treatment in the comments below. So please do write down your thoughts. The film focuses on Ajay Dikshit, played by Varun Dhawan, who is an incompetent school teacher who presents himself to be an individual who has his life sorted, a projection of a confident demeanor in order to safeguard his own frailties. He cares about his image and how he is perceived and does not make an active attempt to change or have perspective that he may be the problem. He gets married to Nisha, played by Janhvi Kapoor, because on the surface everything seems perfect, only to realize that her condition of epilepsy can cause embarrassment to him, so he never goes out with her publicly, fearing that he will have to save face if she ever has a fit. Complications arise in his job as he gets suspended for slapping an MLA's kid, and the class missed the chapter of World War II in his absence, a topic which Ajju Bhaiya has no knowledge of, by the way. So how does he protect his image now? Go for a trip to Europe and teach his class students various facets of the World War by visiting the real sites that saw the atrocities of war, from Paris to Normandy to Amsterdam and even Germany and its concentration camps. The impact that the journey has on Ajay individually and the marriage with Nisha forms the basic storyline of Bawaal. The film mainly aims at focusing on the personality and arc of Ajay, played by Varun Dhawan. One would assume that this film is a deep dive on a troubled marriage and how partners can overcome their problems, but you quickly realize that everything is catered to the Hriday Parivartan of Ajju Bhaiya, and all the characters around him who have the patience of saints just play along. Stories are passed around by characters in Lucknow of the legend that is Ajju Bhaiya, all stories aimed at presenting an image. The reality of the deadbeat loser he is only known by the friend who tags along with him, played exceptionally well by Pratik Pachodi, and his loving family, played by Manoj Pava and Anjuma Saxena. I was actually invested in the earnestness of all the performances of the film, especially in the initial portions of the movie. Varun plays the deadbeat Ajju with great sincerity. He is emotionally volatile, pretentious, and lacks basic decency. The parents just work around his eccentricities that is reflective of most Indian parents and their children. Janhvi has a warm and understanding demeanor that acts as an energy diametrically opposite to Ajju, but one wonders through the initial portions why she is dealing with such an emotionally abusive husband. Nisha is briefly presented as an independent, outgoing and happy girl before marriage, who because of her condition was never lucky in love. She is enamored by Ajju's personality, who seems accepting at first, only to realize after marriage that it was all an act for optics, and he is terribly embarrassed about her condition and it ever surfacing again. Nisha and her individuality is completely snatched away from her in this marriage, which is emotionally abusive, and Ajju barely acknowledges her presence, and an independent girl wouldn't put up with such horrors for a period of 10 months before the idea of the Europe trip ever comes into the picture. In an interesting scene, as Janhvi's mother makes her aware that there's nothing wrong in divorce, Nisha wants to hold on to the union for a little longer, hoping for a better future, making us think that what is so redeeming about Ajju anyway, who leaves no stone unturned in reminding Nisha about her condition and how she's not good enough. The periphery in this film consists of Gujarati travelers and an exchange of suitcases that is aimed at mainly comedic gags that barely land. I definitely did not see Gujjus dancing on Chogada Tara out of nowhere when I signed up for Bawaal. It is only Varun and his naive charm that extracts some laughter, especially when he is alarmed at seeing the exorbitant prices in Paris, or when he simply asks for soft from a waiter. Nisha, a girl who is more well-versed with traveling to a foreign country, helps Ajju out with translation and getting around the city. And this is where the intention of the message does get delivered. Where one visits the real locations of the atrocities of war, it provides you perspective about the privileged bubble one lives in currently and how someone's problems today barely compare to the horrors of bloodshed that were prevalent many decades ago. The editing style utilized as one goes from the current timeline to the time of war is exceptionally executed on Omaha Beach and the chapter of Anne Frank. But this still is restricted to gaining perspective and empathy, which I think everyone can universally relate with. Just the dread and horror one gets overwhelmed by, and it puts your life into perspective on how lucky you are to be born in an era not consumed by war and violence. This is where I felt the film delivered its message as one becomes closer organically. The conversation shared between the characters actually presents Ajju finally making an effort and Nisha feeling seen. But where the movie takes a tone-deaf turn is the chapter of Germany and especially its dialogues. Janhvi states, "हम सब भी तो थोड़े बहुत हिटलर जैसे हैं ना? जो अपने पास है उससे खुश नहीं, जो दूसरों के पास है वो चाहिए." It reminded me of the career hacks Hitler meme where Ranveer had tried to insinuate that Hitler was evil but who isn't. The attempt by the makers is to compare the conquest and bloodshed caused by Hitler for world domination to humans' constant need and wanting more. Cycle है तो bullet चाहिए is an exact example that Janhvi states while naming Hitler in the same sentence. It made me realize that I know what the makers might be going for, but they're saying it in the worst way possible. Ajju literally compares his projection versus reality dichotomy to Hitler's downfall. The conflict of marriage through an Auschwitz survivor and his personal anecdote has a convenient connection to Ajju and Nisha's story. But to represent their marriage visually like being in a gas chamber and as debilitating as Jews in a concentration camp is where I absolutely disconnected. That just to trigger change in Ajju, such a drastic parallel was needed for him to just be more empathetic and human. This moment reminded me of the effectiveness of how Shalini in Dil Chahta Hai had made Akash finally feel with his heart and have a life-altering realization, but it was a journey taken from within. Versus here, where one believes their life can be compared to 6 million Jews being prosecuted, tortured and killed. Traveling through a traumatic chapter of history and empathizing and acknowledging one's privilege is one thing, but to create a parallel with one's trivial squabbles to a terrible dictator and his atrocities just came across as tone deaf. I can see through the cracks and understand what they were going for, but it's rightly being called out for its problematic treatment. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about Bawaal. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.